Happy Friday and welcome to My Truth, Your Truth, Someone's Truth. I'm Tammy Harleb, aka Royman, and here is my co-host who's been a little bit annoying already, even before the show. I don't know,
Yeah, so what's different?
There must have been something in his Wheaties this morning, or
Par for the course. I don't know why you're pointing it out right now, but
because we just got on the air. When was I supposed to point it out?
every other week. It's been consistent, if nothing else.
This is
you
true.
let me introduce myself. I'm Christopher Blakesley. All right, and I'm excited to be here today. We have a fun guest
Yep.
that I think you've known for a while, right?
Yeah, I've known him for a couple of years. Kenji Kita.
Did she say that?
No. Kita. It's Kita.
Yeah,
Man,
It's because I get confused. The I's are E's in Japanese.
yeah, and the R's and L's are reverse in Japanese.
that's another story.
Well,
We're going into stereotypes.
I
now.
tried and I did the best that I possibly could. So I'm like,
you
I'm not
blew it.
embarrassed or
You
anything.
blew it, and I knew
I
it was
blew
going to
it?
happen.
But at
Do
least,
you want to start it over?
No, you did
rewind.
great. You did great.
Rewind.
at
Well,
least I
on
can
it-
pronounce my R's and L's. Unlike
R's and L's?
R's and L's.
Is that an issue too?
Oh yeah. Japanese people they would say aru or eru, not R or L.
It's like
Or laugh out loud is laugh out loud.
good thing you're saying it and not me.
yeah, no, I was
Yeah,
gonna say that
yeah.
it's okay for me to say it.
Yeah.
Oh, but not me.
No, of course not.
Well,
No.
I'll discipline myself
Off
later.
limits.
Which-
Back in time, since we're around the holidays, but back in time when some of the movies were not quite so PC, I guess I'll say. Do you remember at Christmas Story? You know,
Yeah.
you'll shoot your eye out.
I did not like
Oh,
that
yeah, yeah,
movie,
yeah.
but
Mhm,
yeah.
yeah.
You didn't like it?
No.
Oh man, you must hate the 24-hour repeat that they do every year then.
On
I don't-
TNT.
Yes, exactly.
I don't watch TV. It's a Wonderful Life is my favorite Christmas movie.
All right. Well, then I guess we'll have to all tune into that one. Yeah.
Only if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, it's not just about you and I today, Christopher.
Good.
As,
Thank goodness.
You know, like you usually think it is.
Please take the spotlight off of me. Let's hear about Kenji because he's a great guy.
Yeah, Kenji's an amazing person, and Kenji had COVID a couple of years back, which really kind of impacted his life in many different ways, from his marriage to his employment,
Career.
his career. Yeah, I look at it as employment, but your career, and continues to have some types of issues medically because of it. And I think a lot of our viewers can understand because a lot of our viewers had also COVID and are having long-term effects on it. And I thought that this was a good time to have you on, given the flu season is coming up. COVID is still there. It's just not as intense and not shutting everything down as it once was. So welcome to the show, my
Thank you.
friend.
Thank
Yeah,
you very
thanks so
much.
much for
Thank
being
you
here.
for letting me be on the show.
No, we're excited to have you, genuinely. I've been really excited about this conversation. And I wanted to also emphasize so many. We all know somebody, we all know many people, almost everybody had COVID, but I do want to differentiate. You had COVID, and it put you into a deep dive health-wise.
Yes. I probably wasn't supposed to survive COVID.
Oh my gosh.
It was June 2020 when I got it.
Oh, so it
was right at the beginning.
Right at the beginning.
Yeah,
Because
so
if I
there's-
remember, wasn't it around January, February, March, somewhere around that
Is
time?
when, yeah, because I got furloughed at a chiropractor office that I was the office manager / IT
Right.
guy.
Right.
So we got furloughed, and I was pretty much just working from the house.
Right.
Avoiding places. I only went to Target, Whole Foods, and Sprouts.
So you were being safe.
So,
You were
yeah, I
taking
was
all
being
the
safe, yeah.
precautions.
But I still got it.
Wow.
Yeah. And then June 11th is when I ended up in the ER. And they said, yeah, you have COVID and pneumonia, and plus I was diabetic and I was overweight. So I had a lot of other health issues.
Can you indicate what made you go to the ER in the first place? Like,
So it was a very bad cold. Like I had a fever that wouldn't go away, difficulty breathing. And then the other thing too, I started to, I guess because of the lack of oxygen to the brain, I was starting to forget things, or I was getting confused. And so the wife at the time said, hey, this isn't right. We need to take you. So we went to the hospital and they did the test right away. And yeah, it was COVID positive.
Wow.
So they said, yeah, we're going to isolate you. We're going to take care of you. Okay, great. No problem.
right.
Get into the COVID floor. And they were telling me all the things that I had, which is the pneumonia, which is bad, COVID. And they said, yeah, we're going to try to take care of you. But that was June 11th.
They didn't know.
No, they
how
didn't know
to
what
take
to
care
right.
of you.
They had no vaccines. They had, I think they had hydrochloroquine and remdesivir at the time. But by June 19th, so that's 8 days later, that night they came in and said, you have two choices to make. I was like, okay. One, you're going on the ventilator. Or two, you're not going to wake up in the morning.
My gosh.
Yeah.
They were actually giving you that choice,
That was my
knowing
choice.
it was that bad.
Yeah, yeah.
And how were they treating you other than that? Like, what were they doing to help calm your symptoms or help you feel more peaceful as things are going on in that 8 days?
So they were giving me, they did the blood transfusion, the antibody transfusion, and I thought that was going to help.
Yeah.
I did feel a little better, but I soon crashed after that. They were doing the typical, like, treatments for pneumonia.
So the respiratory.
Yeah, respiratory.
Yeah.
But I think they could have done more. I joked with the doctor. I said, hey, I have a wet vac at home. Do you want that? And, you know, it holds like 4 gallons. So they're like, no, it's more than that. But they did the transfusion. The reason why I was crashing was COVID was thickening all the fluids in your body. So the blood and with the liquid in my lungs, that was turning into jello. And so that's why my oxygen level kept dropping. It could not maintain 85%, which is dangerous.
When there's not the flowing of it through the body, right?
So
yeah.
they said, you're not increasing. We have you on, they had this, respirator type thing. And they said, your oxygen level keeps dropping. And so that's why they said, yeah, you're either going on the ventilator or you're done.
Did they know at the time that it seems like COVID was upping the coagulation in the blood, or was that kind of like a surprise to them?
I think it was a surprise. I think I don't understand why they didn't work on treating my pneumonia like a regular pneumonia patient. From a friend of mine who read my medical record. She's a nurse, traveling nurse actually, and she read through every page, and this was 3 boxes of paperwork.
Medicals, information.
Like reams of it. And she goes, yeah, you should not be here, and they should have treated your pneumonia first. So I was in the hospital for a total of 7 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
6 weeks in a coma, on the ventilator. During that 6 weeks, my heart stopped twice for 5 minutes, both times.
Wow.
They had to revive me. So it was pretty grim.
Well, and even number one, being in a coma for 6 weeks and making it out alive, that alone is remarkable.
Was it a coma, or did they put you into
They
one?
put me into
Okay.
it. Yeah, they
so
induced it.
medically.
Yeah, medically induced. Okay.
A coma.
But even more than that, did I understand right that you were on the ventilator?
Yes.
For that amount of time?
Yes, for 6 weeks.
And isn't that alone remarkable that you survived the ventilator? Now, based on what we know now?
Yeah, I was not supposed to survive. And before they put me under, this is where I think it's probably a litigation or liability, because I was already confused. Like, lack of oxygen, my brain wasn't functioning, but they made me sign documentation. That's just like signing a contract under the influence.
Right.
But they said, well, what treatment plans do you want? And I said, well, I'm willing to do the low pressure ventilator. I said, I do not want to do high pressure, and I do not want to do ECMO. And so they said,
Can you describe what ECMO is?
ECMO is, I think, if I remember correctly, is they take the blood out of your system, put it through a filtering machine, and then
okay.
they put it back in,
That makes sense.
oxygenating it and all this kind of stuff.
Right,
And I
right.
heard, what I understood was once you go on ECMO, you're kind of on it for the rest of your life.
Oh my gosh.
That's like they can take you off of it,
Right.
but I was just like, no, I'm not even going to go.
Don't want to
towards
take
Yeah.
that risk.
Right. High pressure, I just knew the dangers of it. It's, you're going to damage your lungs.
Right.
Low pressure, you're still damaging it, but I'm like, I'm willing to do it. Then they asked, do you want to sign a do not resuscitate? I said, no. As long as it's under low pressure, I do not want, I want to be resuscitated. Luckily, I did that.
Yeah.
Because
they had to several times.
Yeah, twice, yeah. So
gosh.
had I signed that away, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Unbelievable.
What was going through your mind through all of this?
Confusion.
I was
the
body shutting down. It's doing all these things,
Yeah.
and
I could, since I was on the COVID floor, I couldn't have any visitors. The wife at the time, she had COVID, but it wasn't as bad as her. Like, it didn't affect her that much. But she was isolating at home. We talked on the phone just a little bit, but again, I'm kind of confused.
Yeah.
And with that oxygen mask, it was kind of hard to talk anyway.
sure,
I messaged my brother that I'm okay, but it's not looking good. Then I said, don't tell mom because I don't want her to worry. She's in Japan.
right,
She's elderly, so I didn't want her to worry. And so what scared me the most was I couldn't say goodbye to anybody, like in person.
yeah,
And when they told me they were putting me under, they really didn't give me the opportunity to call people and say, hey, this might be
Right.
it.
I'm praying that I wake up
Yeah,
from this,
yeah.
but nobody knows.
Nobody knows. And the treatment plan was all experimental as well.
Yeah.
So they were, they made me sign these documents, which again, with my cognitive being affected, I don't think it was
Right.
legal.
Was it under duress?
Yeah,
Were
or under
you-
duress, or like I've asked several law firms around town,
Mhm.
and they said they don't want to take this. They said, you're alive, so just be thankful for that.
Right. Which is a tough
Yeah.
tough thing to swallow for somebody that
Oh, yeah.
suffered through and survived, thankfully,
Yeah.
such a harrowing
Yeah,
situation.
exactly.
And I have a couple questions if I can back up very
for sure,
slightly.
for
So,
sure.
number one, it'll be a little quick two-parter, okay? Number one,
nothing
how,
is quick with Christopher, except
slowed down by
there
this
might
one
be
right
some things, but I have to ask his
Yeah.
wife and report back.
now. Unbelievable. So, what I was going to ask was the time from first symptoms, where you started to feeling the cold, the pneumonia, to getting into the COVID floor. And then I'd love to hear about what does this COVID floor look like, right? Is it, I'm picturing some apocalyptic.
No, it was like a regular room, but they had this thing. I forgot what it's called, but they were pulling the air out of the room. So there's this big air filter in there.
That's right. I remember that now.
And
They had almost like those airplane air filters. in
I
these
think it was
places,
called
right?
the low or zero pressure room or something like that.
Okay.
And they pretty much suck all the air out, all the dust, anything out of the room.
Right.
But that thing was so loud. So it was hard to sleep, but it ended up to being like white noise. So it did put me to sleep, but it was very loud.
Took a while to get used to it, and then
Yeah.
when your ears were used
Right.
to it,
Then it was fine. And then
Yeah.
you see the window that the nurses would look through. And anytime they had to enter, they had to suit up.
Wow.
So I'm watching them like suit up as they're coming in.
which I can only imagine what that did for your mental state.
I'm like, whoa, what do I
These
have?
people,
Yeah.
for them to even
Yeah.
see me, they're
Yeah.
putting on a full hazmat
Yeah,
suit.
right. And
Can't
then
imagine.
once they leave, you see them taking it off and throwing it away. And I was just like, wow. I mean, it was pretty scary.
I can only imagine.
they
How many people were on the floor with you? If you, I mean, a
Like
ballpark. I'm not.
60, I think.
Oh wow,
60,
so
yeah.
so quite full.
Yeah, it was full. Yeah,
Individual rooms or were
individual
people
rooms.
sharing
We
rooms?
weren't sharing rooms.
Okay.
No, no.
And what was the mindset of the nurses and the doctors? Could you tell that they were also kind of stressed out, or do you think they were able to manage it pretty well?
They were stressed.
They were stressed.
Yeah, there's one particular nurse. I wish I remembered her name, but she always checked in on me, and even on her days off, she actually came in.
Wow.
June 17th was my birthday, and she actually went downstairs to the gift shop and bought me a stuffed animal and a balloon and said happy birthday and
Oh,
stuff
that's
like that. Yeah,
amazing.
and I was like, wow.
Just going
And then-
so far above and
yeah.
beyond. That's amazing.
And she was the one that told me right before I was going into the coma, she goes, all you have to do is just lie back and hang in there and don't give up. Let us take care of you.
Wow.
She goes, just don't
That's
give up on us.
Great advice.
Yeah. And then when I woke up, she was there.
she was right there. Yeah.
And she was telling me, yeah, you did a good job. Welcome back.
I'm happy
Yeah.
she was the face
Yeah.
that welcomed you
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
because I'm sure they're
Oh,
not
I'm
all.
sure she's seen a lot. I'm
Yeah.
sure. Like
Yeah.
saying goodbye, like as a
Well,
nurse, you can't
being
say that. Yeah.
helpless.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, I worked with quite a few nurses during COVID's and some traveling nurses that were taking assignments in cities that were just rampaged terribly. And as news was coming out about different things, even the second wave, which was a much younger generation, it's like the first wave really took their toll, but the way it was described to me through a few people is it was older people. They had so many health issues on top of this now attacking the body. The second wave was much difficult because they had younger people in their 20s and even younger than that didn't have health issues and were coming in and they were dying. And I know at that point, I mean, the people that I worked with, I mean, they were contemplating taking their own lives at that point. They're just short-staffed. Everybody's like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And they're having to be in and tell people, your family member, passed away and they're 10 years old, 20 years old, and they can't say goodbye either because nobody's letting them in the hospital.
Right.
And they're really not talking on the phone because they're also on ventilators. So, I applaud anybody that stuck through that because it took a lot on their part, and to be so kind and loving. And I know the people I worked with, they did that extra effort to be kind and loving to the people that were around them. And if it was time to go, they were as comforting as they could possibly be, going well above their job duty description on that. And they were having a lot of trouble sleeping. I know I did a lot on Zoom at that point, and all of them would say the nights that we do our sessions, that's the night I sleep, but the other nights it's kind of on and off.
Yeah.
So you're in this coma. Do you remember anything from being in the coma?
I remember these dreams.
Okay.
Even though it was 6 weeks, it didn't feel like 6 weeks. It felt like a couple of days.
That's what
Yeah.
happens when you're in the place where time doesn't exist.
Yeah. So I wrote down all the dreams, and there's a common theme. They were all hospital-based themes, as in I'm in a hospital room.
Right.
But I was in different cities. Some cities I've been to, some cities I've never been to. But-
International cities, all in the
Oh, yeah,
U.S.
No, international.
Wherever.
One of them was Venice, Italy. I've
Ooh.
never been to Venice.
Oh wow.
But my bed, my gurney was on the gondola, and the gondola's waiting in line to get into this hospital in Venice. And
No kidding.
I doubt it's like that.
Yeah.
But that was one weird.
How
dream.
fascinating.
But it's
Yeah.
it's peaceful to think that you're in a gondola floating and
Yeah,
Wasn't
but
it?
if I remember correctly, though,
Yeah.
the nurses. This is the funny part. The nurses were arguing over when they're getting their cappuccinos. Like it was a delivery service, and they were upset that it wasn't coming. And I'm sitting there, lying there, and like in the gurney, waiting.
Enough
to
with
be-
my patience. I need a
I need-
cappuccino.
yeah.
and of course dreams are they're only relevant to ourselves. So
Yeah.
I mean, to look at dream analysis,
Yeah.
I can tell you how to do that
Yeah.
if you want,
Well,
but
I
you
think I told-
rewrite the dream.
I think I told you a couple of them, but like
Yeah.
like I said, I had a heart attack twice, so I stopped breathing. And in one of the dreams, I was doing this. I was like, I'm done,
Yeah.
because I was having
Kinda
difficulty.
tapping out.
Yeah, I was
It's-
having difficulty dreaming or breathing.
Hmm.
In the dream, the nurse, not that nurse, this is a different nurse,
Mhm.
was like, no, you can't give up. You have, your kids, as in my furry kids,
Right.
at home waiting for you. Don't give up, don't give up. And I feel like I was listening to the nurses trying to revive me.
Wow.
And that was part of it, right? So I think, but I wrote that part down.
How soon after you wake up do you write down these dreams? Because I'm curious how long it was.
Oh, it took me about a month because.
Oh, wow, so you
yeah.
still
Oh, yeah,
remembered
yeah.
it a
Mhm.
full
Yeah.
month
Oh, yeah,
later.
Because what happened, because of the coma, and I'm pretty much just lying there, I lost all my muscle. I
Just
went from
atrophying from,
180 pounds to 125 pounds.
oh my gosh,
Yeah.
65
So I was,
pounds?
Yeah, I was
or
just
60
skin,
pounds?
bones, and organs. That was it. I could barely lift up my hand during when they woke me up. So a lot of physical therapy. But yeah, I couldn't write or even pick up my phone. I couldn't
Wow.
eat.
Wow.
So it took a while.
And so during that time, you had a feeding tube that was
Giving
giving you what you needed?
through the nose. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it was feeding tube that way.
Well, this might sound like a strange question, and it's just because I'm curious.
Yeah.
But,
no, it's just because you're strange.
And I'm strange. But when you've had a feeding tube for 6 weeks and then you have your first solid meal, first of all, how soon is it? Second of all, does it taste strange at that point? Are you used to liquid?
You know what they say about hospital food? It's gross, right?
Whether it's
But-
liquid or solid.
Yeah. When they took the feeding tube out, they said, okay, you're gonna start with I guess smoothies, like liquid
Makes sense.
food. It was about 2 days later. They said, okay, we're gonna try solid food. So it started out with soups,
Okay.
and it tasted great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then they got to they gave me a turkey dinner, gravy and mashed potatoes. So,
Okay.
and it was hospital food, but it
Still
tasted
tasted
amazing.
amazing.
Best food
I was
ever.
like,
It was-
oh man, this is good. But again, I had to have help. Like the nurse had to feed me. I couldn't even poke at it with a fork and lift it and eat.
How many
Because-
weeks of physical therapy would it take for you to get back to the point where you could?
So it took me about 6 months to learn how to walk without a walker.
Wow.
It was about 4 weeks in a wheelchair,
Wow.
and then a walker from that point on.
Now, at this point, when you're doing all of this, were you still in the hospital and you
No,
were
I
just...
was
okay.
I was at home. They discharged me. They
Okay.
actually wanted to put me into a rehab center,
Uh-huh.
but the rehab center was full of COVID patients as well. So I was afraid of
Yeah, to
going
get
there. Yeah,
reinfected.
reinfected. So I fought with the hospital, and again, there was a document I had to sign saying, well, I'm refusing rehab and that I'm doing home care.
Right.
And with that, I had enough to go to my insurance and say, I want to do home care, and they approved it. So
Oh, thank
the
goodness.
medical bills were paid for that.
Wow.
But yeah, I went home. But we hired a nurse for, 7 days a week, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Oh, wow. Almost
they
all
came
day.
so it was 3 different nurses that came every day to
Wow.
help me with my laundry, medication, just daily things until I was able to do things on my own.
My gosh.
Yeah.
How long between getting out of a coma and being discharged was there?
That was a week.
It was about a
Yeah,
week.
about a week. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm, yeah.
And so you go home, and is the medical plan still continued? In other words, are you in a hospital bed still with things hooked up to you?
Yeah,
Okay.
they got a medical bed or gurney into the spare bedroom. They had one of those oxygen tanks for me, and oxygen compressor, and a long ass cannula. too.
Okay.
So that was on me the whole time. Again, at first I couldn't even walk, so they got a wheelchair for me. The nurse would wheel me back and forth, but again, I had no muscles to even sit up.
Yeah.
Like all my back muscle, my chest muscle, all that's gone. So you can't even sit up.
Right.
So again, restroom was
Just feel helpless.
yeah.
Everybody has to help you with
yeah,
even the most.
in
Yeah. Oh,
in
yeah.
the bed, like
Yeah.
until I could do more and more stand up and things like that. So
Wow.
it was pretty bad. Yeah.
Did you feel confident with the staff that was being provided to you? And then
Mm-hmm.
your wife at the time, I'll
Yeah.
call her what you call her.
Yeah.
She was also there helping you.
She was not there helping me. But the nurses were. Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
explain that, because there's a lot of things that kind of
Yeah,
occurred.
yeah. So prior, like when I got hospitalized, she was posting on her Facebook and my Facebook of how badly the hospital was doing my treatments. Like, they're trying to kill my husband, blah, 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 making it sound like she was, a very supportive spouse.
Right.
But behind the scenes, she was expecting me to die. And so when the coma, when that came up, she was just like, okay, he's dead, so I'm moving on. She continued that look of being a supportive wife, but I found out that she was already moving on.
How did that feel? I mean, you're sick, you got all this stuff going on, and the person that you've committed your life to, that, is supposed to love you so much and be there no matter what, is on Facebook or making connections with other people, moving herself on. Did you wonder how committed she ever was to the marriage, or if she ever loved you?
After, yeah. I mean, months after, I've realized that, there's a reason why I had to go through this, was to see that. And, I'm lucky this didn't happen when I was 70 years old and I got cancer or something. And,
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping that never happens ever.
Yeah.
But I
what
understand
I mean.
you have time now to kind of move on.
Yeah, exactly.
Rebuild,
Rebuild,
start over.
And the first thing when she said she wanted a divorce, I immediately said, okay, that's fine. You want to use just one lawyer for this, or you want your own? And she's like, no, just one. And I go, what do you want out of this? And she's like, nothing. I don't want alimony. I don't want the house, anything. So I was like, all right, fine. Let's just get this going. My thought is, I have to survive.
Right.
I was given a second chance, so I'm going to do what I can to recover. And that was my mindset from that point on.
Yeah. Did you ever think, wow, she could have waited until I was a lot better than I am?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for myself, I would have waited till after the funeral to actually move on. But at the bare minimum, I would have waited until the body was room temperature. I mean, I have to have humor out of this. And that's the way my whole outlook now is humor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad.
You have all these medical issues going on. Yeah. How do you taking care of yourself emotionally throughout all this?
Throughout all this, it was hard. I wanted to give up a lot. I was like, why was I put through this and now I'm having to recover by myself? And what kept me going are all the messages that I got through Facebook and text messages from people that were watching what was happening and saying, don't give up.
Yeah.
And I figured, I put it in my mindset of, they prayed for me, so it would be wrong to let them down. So anytime I felt like giving up, I just read through my messages. And I have, one family here that, I mean, not my real family. She's my best friend.
That's real family.
Yeah, but they're my adopted family.
Yeah.
And the father there prayed for me and stuff like that, but he ended up getting COVID. He ended up going through the same things that I went through, and he unfortunately passed away.
I'm sorry.
So that one really hit me hard because we both went through the same thing. He had health issues as well. He had diabetes. But I felt like he prayed for me and I made it, but I prayed for him. And I always felt like it wasn't enough. That, that's why he passed away.
Yeah, that's a hard swallow when it's your time. It's your time.
Yeah.
And things look so similar, but one person, it's just time for them to go.
Right.
And the other person, well, it's not. They have more to do on the earth.
Yeah. And then, grand total, I know 6 people personally that passed away from COVID.
Wow, really?
Out of those, I know 28 people that passed away grand total, but they're a friend of, friends,
like 1
mom,
degree removed,
right, or brother or relative. So 28 people that I know that have passed away in such a short period of time. I have never experienced anything like that.
Yeah, that's
so that was hard. Yeah, and to always find out that I made it. there must be a reason why I was given this second chance.
Yeah.
And in one of my dreams, my father, he showed up. And my father passed away in 96.
Oh, wow.
And it was very short. I never got to say anything to him, but he flat out said, it's not my time and that I need to go home.
Wow.
And the comment of I need to go home is, I think he knew what was going on at home.
Got it. Now, when you say home, do you mean with your
Home.
mother?
I think
or-
he meant home as in my house in Henderson,
Okay.
but
Not home, like
not
on the
home,
other
Japan,
side.
yeah.
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 But
That's what I was curious
mhm,
about.
Yeah, I've been thinking of moving to Japan now. Like,
And I think that's why I was curious. What do you think he meant by that?
I think it's both. I think
Uh-huh.
he knew I needed to recover, but now I'm recovered. It's time for me probably to go back to my home country.
Okay.
Career-wise and things like that. I'm looking for jobs in Japan.
Okay.
I think I'd fit in well there.
Right.
And half my life is over, so I'd
Is
rather.
it?
I'm 50.
You don't know
I'm
that.
50, yeah.
You don't know
Yeah.
that.
But I feel like
You're gonna.
The
is
remaining
it over
half-
at 100?
That's what I'm striving for. But I feel like, I went through all of this. I got a second chance. So whatever's left, I want to maybe leave it, end it there, in other words. Yeah.
If we can talk for a moment about how it did impact your career, because here, you have interesting career paths that you've chosen.
Yes.
You do films, and you're a cameraman, and you also were in the pornography industry doing a lot of that type of stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And obviously that was very impacted, I'm sure, by COVID,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Right.
And then you do acting as well, so a lot of that took, the back step.
Right.
And then you were an office manager, as you were saying, and everything kind of shut down. So not only are you sick and you're trying to get your life straightened out, is there anything in your mind that is saying, and what am I going to do for a career right now? Because it looks like everything that I do is shut down.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, long story short, I've been in corporate IT for 25 years. So I'm from a corporate type environment. That was my career. My videography, photography, all that was always a side business. But way before COVID, in 2018, I left the corporate world and started my business, my photography business.
Right.
And
Amazing
from that
photography,
point on,
by the way.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Oh, thank you. But during that time frame, I started to network with people and took my enterprise experience and helped them build their companies or their startups. So I've had my hand in a wide range. Again, there's cannabis, there's beauty spa, skincare products, digital magazine. Again, adult industry. Not an actor. I was behind
Sure,
the camera.
don't
I was
be
behind the
shy.
camera, filming stuff and doing, I was doing well.
Yeah.
Then the furlough happened, and when that happened, I was working at a chiropractor office. We kind of shut down, and I was, I was planning on going back because I was doing a reality TV show with that chiropractor office.
Oh, wow.
So we were just waiting, and then.
So
then
you
I
were
got-
filming.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And then all that happened, and everything shut down, and it was literally 14 months that my doctor said that I could not work. The last 8 months of that was light desk duties, as in he'll let me work from home on the computer, but nothing like intensive.
So you went from having multiple hats that you were wearing
Right, to nothing.
to nothing.
Right.
And then trying to figure out, okay, what the hell? How
What
am
am
I
I
going to
gonna
pay
do?
the
Right.
mortgage?
Yeah, right.
Everything.
And this is the crazy part. Because of the shutdown, all that, a lot of my clientele started to learn how to do things on their own because they had to. They couldn't hire me, or
They
they
had
couldn't
nothing
hire
but time.
people. Right. So I had a lot of real estate agents. I used to take photos of the houses, and they'd hire me for that. A lot of the actors, I would do their headshots. A lot of the adult performers.
Right.
With
We're
dirty feet?
We would film content for them for their OnlyFans stuff. So a lot of income was coming in that way. But then during the shutdown, they decided, oh, I'm going to do this on my phone. I'm going to do this on my own.
Right.
And they started to learn. Then when things started to open back up, I was thinking, oh, great, I'm going to start getting business again.
They were
No.
already used to it.
Yeah, they're already used to it. They knew what I was doing.
Right.
But I can tell that it's that quality. And I used to promote it. It's like, well, no, it'll look better. It'll look better.
Right.
But now, even the whole like client base or their customer base, they don't need that quality anymore.
They're not as concerned.
They're not as concerned. So I've had to change my work. And
You keep getting
Yeah.
rug pulled,
Yeah, yeah,
right? You
yeah.
have a plan A,
Yeah.
B, C, D.
yeah.
And each time the rug keeps getting pulled out from under you, you think you're going to
Right.
bounce back
Yeah.
into it,
Yeah.
and it ain't working.
And so you have to adjust.
right.
And I've noticed people who are still struggling and saying, oh, COVID really screwed me over. Yeah, because you haven't adjusted. You have to change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Einstein's quote, meaning of insanity, of doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting something different.
Right.
And when I see people, some of these people some of the networking people that I've did this, they're like, oh, I'm still struggling. I'm like, then change.
Right.
Change your content, change what you're doing. And
Right.
they don't want to. And I'm
That-
like, well, okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the problem with people are living too much here and they're not realizing kind of what's
Right.
going on.
Yeah.
Is that these things happen for us to move us in a direction that we actually belong, but we resist it so much that we cause more and more issues. So while you're going from this place to this place to this place and things being pulled out, maybe it's because that's not where you're supposed to be. You think, and that's where the thinking mind kind of gets involved and isn't all that beneficial because, oh, these are my skill sets, so I'm supposed to be doing this in this industry. But then it's like, well, no. Well, these are my skill sets, so now I'm going to go and try that. No, that's not the right industry either, right? And so I think you've had to personally adjust and say, okay, well, I am headed towards where I know that I am beneficial, where I've really come to that, because I know how you think in the spiritual realm. I've come to the earth to do something amazing, and these are the amazing gifts that I have been given to do it. I just can't completely see so clearly exactly what I'm supposed to do with them.
Right. Yeah. And right now there's a potential opportunity for a company that's looking to hire like an IT director, maybe even CTO, and I'm hopeful that this pans out, but that would be a corporate job, which
Right.
I didn't really want to go back into corporate. I'm still in a startup right now, but a corporate enterprise, a stable company is looking more and more attractive. Because again, I've been in so many startups that unless it's successful and generating revenue at the maximum amount, it's going to be a struggle. And I've seen so many of these startups fail, or they're still struggling. They're barely breaking even after 3 years. And it's like, guys, be proud of your product. You need to increase your price. You need to reduce production cost and make these investments. And it's these short-minded mentality that, you're not going to survive in an enterprise company.
Right.
You have to have those long-term goals.
And you seem to be very fluid, right? Your ability to change with the times and the scenario. Is that something that you learned through this experience with COVID and having to, or have you always been like that?
Both. I'm more fluid after COVID because life is short.
I think that's a beautiful
Yeah.
takeaway from this.
Life is short. And
Right.
when I was in corporate, a lot of guys would say, "Man, you're a complete ass." Like, I was strict. I was.
You mean as like a boss, like you
as
were
a
very
boss,
straight line.
I was
Like Christopher, because his employees can constantly complain about
Yeah.
him.
You can tell.
I mean, they used to call me like the Asian Steve Jobs or the Asian Don Draper from the show Mad Men.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, "Dude, you're like that. Like, you're a complete ass sometimes."
Right.
I was like, "Well, if it doesn't go my way, it's my way or the highway."
Right.
But after this, it's like, man, I really need to change. Being angry when there's a mistake that happened does nothing.
No.
To change the mistake.
Nothing.
That's
Not
right.
at all. As a leader, you need to be there to say, well, what can I help you with? And then what is it that you're lacking, or what happened with this mistake? Is it training or anything like that? And as a leader, you're supposed to provide the resources.
How do we make sure that this doesn't happen
again.
next time?
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
And I think that's first of all, there's two really amazing things in there. Number one, that you recognize who you were. You know yourself well enough who you were. And two, that you're willing to change it.
Yes,
where you're willing to say, hey, that is not who I want to be. I'm not proud of what that was or how that looked. And I'm going to switch.
Yes.
Do you? You switch your behavior. You don't switch who you are,
No,
Christopher.
you switch your behavior.
Oh,
And then
I'm learning lessons.
the other thing, I mean, I don't read a lot, as in a lot of people do. They read books and books and books. But I do read. This goes back years. It was a quote from Bruce Lee from one of his interviews, and he was talking about be like water. You know, water can be the shape of a pot. Water can be a wave. Be the shape, like flow with it.
Absolutely.
And I've had that. I mean, I know I butchered that quote. Like
no, but I've heard it.
100%.
Be like water
Be
is
like
what you
water.
see.
Yeah, be like water.
The other interpretation, yeah.
And when I heard that as a little kid, I was like, yeah, that you have to be fluid.
Yeah.
You have to mold yourself into the experience or what you're in right now.
Well, and the especially even the context of Bruce Lee saying it and knowing what his martial arts background was, right? He was one of the first ones to accept that taking the best from each discipline can make you a well-rounded, better martial artist.
Right.
And so I think part of it was, okay, take this skill from this skill from this, and become the best per every situation.
And isn't that the way life goes? That everything is happening to help you move forward. We just get so caught up in things we don't see what is being presented in people and in situations. And, you know, I got to see you transition. And I remember the first time I talked to you, and I believe it was right out of the hospital, and got to watch you start to breathe better, start to move better, start to get hopeful, you know, getting back to daily routines, taking your cameras out to the desert, doing things that you enjoyed. And in that, your mindset really did change dramatically from hopeless to, wait a minute, I'm here to do something, and by golly, I'm going to be doing it, you know. And I personally am so grateful and thankful to watch you take your journey, because I thought it was incredible. And I think like the strength that you had in the mindset, how you changed was just, it was amazing. And I think that is one reason that you're here, because you were able to say, all right, I'm just not in control of this, but I'm in control of this. And I'm not going to let myself be controlled by this anymore. I'm going to take control of my own self. So, yeah. And so now you're still having some physical challenges. A lot of people talk about the symptoms of COVID going on and on and on and on. And I know I've heard from some people that they say, oh, that can't be true. It's just in their mind, which you should never be discounting what anybody else is telling you. You're not in their bodies. You're not thinking their thoughts. You're not going through what they're going through. So, you know, to validate, okay, you're still having these symptoms. What are your long-term symptoms that you've been continuing with? And are any of them impacting day-to-day life?
Oh, yeah. Long haul symptoms. We've all heard it. And I'm still struggling with short-term memory loss. Before COVID, I used to remember names of everybody. Like I would meet somebody like a minute, and it could be 8 months later, and I'd still remember their names. Now it's kind of like I have to see them like multiple times before I remember their names.
Yeah.
You know, and then I've been in situations where I put stuff back in the kitchen after, you know, I got a gallon of milk, and I put it away. I was supposed to put it away in the refrigerator, and it ended up in the food pantry. Like,
no explanation for how this synapse fired that way.
Or like locking the door on the garage when I leave. I have to keep telling myself, did I lock the door? Did I lock the door? And there's been multiple times I actually drove back home to check to see if
Yeah.
the door was locked.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, it's locked.
Of course.
You
It
know.
must
But the
be
brain
so-
secretary kicked in and you weren't sure.
So,
So
I
frustrating.
have that. My lungs have recovered. I'm doing more cardio. Before it was just like light cardio,
Yeah.
but I'm able to do more. My oxygen level is very stable when it comes to strenuous exercise. It recovers quickly, or much quicker than before. So that's getting better. My diabetes is still iffy. I know the virus did attack the pancreas, and my diabetes got worse. But now I'm on better medication. I've lost more weight, and the exercise is helping the diabetes as well. So they're hoping I'm off of the medication soon. But yeah, those are like the biggest things. But like I said, the short-term memory loss, and the doctor was saying it's probably from the lack of oxygen that it affected your brain.
And how often are you following up with your doctors now?
Now it's every 6 months. So
Okay,
I actually
so
have
it's-
an appointment next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good timing
yeah,
for this.
right.
So it's fairly spread out, though.
Yeah.
And what types of exercise? Like, do you cycle? Do you jog? Do you? What are you able to do?
I used to just do the treadmill, but now I'm getting into weight training.
Okay.
So that's more strenuous, and so
And especially good for you, in your 40s and 50s to
right.
build muscles and bone
Right,
density and all
right,
that
yeah.
type of stuff.
Are
Yeah.
you even in your 40s? No.
Unfortunately, yes, I am well
like
into.
40 in 6 months.
Nah, I
Yeah.
wish. You're both very kind, but no.
Well, we got to stop that. We should definitely not be so kind
Yeah,
to
no,
Christopher.
no.
That's for sure.
But that's amazing that you're to the point now where you see a doctor twice a year.
Yeah.
You can do all the regular physical activities that you were able to before.
Right.
That your diabetes is under control. Are there any recommendations that your doctor, outside of staying fit, are there any types of vitamins, any types of foods, diet, sunlight? What types of things are they recommending outside of just normal medication?
They told me to take the supplements like vitamin D, zinc, magnesium, things like that. But vitamin D, it's better to be outside naturally.
Straight from the sun.
Yeah, instead of the pills. Fish oil, again, that's supposed to be good for, I guess, the circulation and things like that.
Circulation, the
Yeah.
heart,
Mhm,
omega
right,
3s, and all
omega-3.
that.
Yeah, so I now I'm taking like a round of supplements.
And were you taking that prior to?
No, I was not taking that prior to.
Okay.
Watching what I eat, not eating a lot of processed food, cooking, things like that. So, yeah, that's probably the only recommendation.
And the reason why I wanted to even talk about that stuff is that is something all of us should be doing.
Right.
And it's something that all of us can do, right?
Right.
Whether we have had COVID, whether we're worried we're going to get COVID.
Right.
I think it's just a good part of a healthy lifestyle.
I think the processed foods was really bad for me. I mean, looking back, that's why I have type 2 diabetes. It's a lifestyle disease, not a physical disease like type 1.
Well, and you said you lost a lot of weight, so you were heavier when you went in. Because you look great now.
Yeah,
I would never have guessed.
I'm down to 165. And the doctor was like, yeah, that's good. Keep maintaining it. But even though 165 is above what their average is for my height, he goes, you have muscle mass. Because my clothes, I actually bought new clothes because they're small. I mean, I'm smaller.
Right.
So I've had to buy smaller clothes, even though I weigh 165.
You look healthy.
Thank you.
Yeah, you look good. What do you do emotionally when things are kind of, getting you down again? Or
Yeah, it is. I end up playing with my dogs and my cat. I mean, they're like, it's unconditional love from them. And they don't care what's going on. They're just happy, and I just spend time with them. I know my photography used to be a hobby, but since I turned that into a business, I can't call it a hobby anymore.
Of course you can. That's the best business to have, is a hobby
it's a hobby,
that
yeah.
you get
Oh,
paid for.
I wish my dad was still around, because he would tell you the complete opposite. He said,
Well,
never turn your hobby into a profession.
My hobby is my profession, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, as a little kid, like in high school, my dad would be like, hey, what do you want to do as your career? I'm like, at the time, my hobby was making model cars. And I go, Dad, I want to make these model cars for a career. And my dad goes, but that's your hobby. Like, what if you have a bad day at work? What are you going to do to have fun? I was like, I don't know, make more models. And he's like, no. That's your job. What are you going to do after that? Like, so that's when he said, never turn your hobby into a career or a profession.
Huh.
Take
And I
the
was
joy
like,
out
yeah,
of it.
yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with your dad.
Well-
Because it's like, it's my hobby. My hobby is not stressful for me. My hobby is not aggravating for me.
Yeah, I
I think the
and
key
so-
is for you.
Yeah, well, I can only talk
no,
about
no.
myself. I can't talk about
No.
anybody
Don't
else.
tell his sweet dad that he's wrong.
Can you hear me? He hears me. He's like, now I know
He said
it's
you're way
right.
off,
Your
Tammy.
hobby
Well-
should be your job.
Well, now, after everything that I've gone through, it is different. I have a different mindset when it comes to career. So, like this whole photography business that I started and did,
Yeah.
my dad, again, would be like, are you crazy? You're turning your hobby into this side business
Right.
or a full-time job. You're nuts.
Right.
But just like you said, you don't have a bad day.
You don't.
That's the thing. It's like, yeah, you're thinking as in a corporate mindset, you're going to have a bad day because you're president of a company or whatever.
Right.
That's not a hobby.
Right.
A hobby, you're not going to have a bad day. And that's where I think that's why I wanted to chime in and say, this is one thing that's different. And my mindset is now different is, yeah, I could turn that into a hobby and turn the hobby into profession. But I do want to do something else that I'm not relying on the income
Right.
from doing something. So that's where I started to learn how to cook. Well, I knew how to cook before, but I am learning to cook more foods. There's dishes that I've made. And then because I'm a photographer, videographer, what do?
You
Take photos
post
of the
it.
meals.
I made a TikTok video
Yeah.
Awesome.
of cooking Japanese food. It hasn't taken off.
Uh-huh.
I need to get back.
But do you
into
get
doing-
joy out of it?
Yeah, I get
There
joy
you
out of
go.
it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm like, I need to start doing this more. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Good for you.
Thank you.
And I think part of that has to do with eras, right? When our fathers grew up, I think it was a lot coming out of the Depression era. It was stability.
Right, exactly.
And now I think we have a different view, and your
Yeah.
view was maybe accelerated by this experience.
Right.
That thank God you came on the other side.
And being Japanese, that is like the biggest thing. I mean, my dad was the president of Pioneer Electronics.
Wow.
Japanese businessmen's mindset is once you're in the company, you're in the company for life.
Right.
That's not the way it is anymore, especially in Japanese companies or the culture. But I still had that mentality.
Right.
But for me, though, I will be like honest. I will be at a company until I don't enjoy it anymore. And somebody else needs to take that position and enjoy what I was doing. And so that's how I end up leaving companies after so many years.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to bring out. When you don't like we get the idea that we're stuck doing something. We have to work here, or we need this. And we limit ourselves on the fact that if you don't enjoy your job, you're not going to be good at it. And if you're not going to be good at it, you're not going to help the company nor their customers get where they want to be. It's better to go and find out what you are passionate about, what you're going to have fun with, and let somebody else take that job that feels that
Exactly.
way
Yeah,
about that
exactly.
particular
Right.
position. Because we don't have to do anything. We've convinced ourselves we have to do this. We don't have to do anything. We're free human beings. It's all up to us on what we want to do.
Right.
You know.
So that's why now, my background is IT, but with my creative side, I would love to get into Hollywood, be behind the cameras more, directing more, and if I could do anything IT-wise in a movie company,
Right.
that would be great as well.
Well, and the
But,
fact that you have experience there, right? That's not a pipe dream.
Right,
Like if
no,
I were to
no.
say that, it'd be
And
out of left field, but you've actually done it.
Right, and the reason why I got into acting is to start seeing all the positions or what it takes to make a film by knowing every part of that production process. Keeping that knowledge and say, oh yeah, that's why we do it this way, or this is why the director does it this way, or and things like that. And
I think that's cool.
as a director as well, I did that after COVID.
Oh,
When mistakes happen, I never got angry. And this media company I worked for a little bit was like, how do you stay so calm when mistakes happen? I'm like, again, why get angry?
right.
Talk with the actor, find out what's going on. Did they forget their lines, or is this wrong, or does this not? Ask the script person, hey, this doesn't flow right, can we rewrite it? So again, you got to know the mindset of the script writer, the actors, all that kind of stuff, and you have to stay calm.
It's a very cool
There's
holistic
no-
approach.
There's no
Yeah.
reason to get angry.
Right.
Yeah.
And how cool is it that 10 years ago, however long
Oh
ago,
yeah, I would've
that
been
was
a
just not you?
complete- Yeah, some of the rumors you hear now, some of these directors are being like so like strict.
Right.
I'm like, why? You're just raising your blood pressure,
Right.
you know.
What's it
Right.
going to change? It's
Yeah,
not
what's
going
it
to
gonna-
change
yeah.
the way they
Yep.
act,
Yep.
or
You're probably gonna have a heart attack on set.
exactly.
And it might make them worse
exactly.
at acting,
Yeah,
right? If
right,
they've got
yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
yelling,
Mhm, yeah.
screaming director in their head.
And
I know.
you lose the respect.
Right.
Now my mindset is I need to earn respect. And how do you do that? Not through anger. You got to
Absolutely.
you earn it through empathy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Right.
biggest thing that I heard and remember now is empathy is really needed in every environment.
Not whether
Yeah.
it's the workplace,
Mhm.
whether
Yeah.
it's here, whether it's at the grocery store, right?
Right. Mhm.
I think you're right. And I think
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to.
Trying to, yeah,
Exactly.
right, yeah. And I'm gonna do my best. You know, I had bad road rage, but now it's kind of like, oh, I'm sorry, go right ahead. Like, I didn't, you know,
Do you think
Yeah.
that comes from having been through such an ordeal?
yeah.
You're like,
oh yeah, yeah.
What is it?
What is
What does it matter?
Yeah, what does it matter?
Yeah.
Like,
Perspective.
mhm.
Maybe that's, you need to do a documentary and go around the country and ask
Right.
people that had
Right.
COVID how their lives have changed to be better,
Yeah.
instead of everybody focusing on how bad it was.
You're
It's
right.
over, it's done,
It's
we
done.
have to
Oh,
move
yeah,
on.
yeah.
But
Mhm.
I'll bet that if people reflect, they'll be able to at least say to one thing, I am better off because of this,
Yeah.
and this
I
is
would-
how I'm better
I
off.
would love to. I mean, I would love to take
Just
that whole
do it.
TED talk.
Do it.
And make it like Ken talk or something like that.
I like the idea.
Kenji
I'll
talk.
film that one.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
We'll change roles.
Okay.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, if I was given that opportunity, I would do it. No problem at all.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Well, I think we're getting
We're
near
getting
the
there.
end
Yeah,
of this,
yeah.
but your insight's been fantastic.
oh, thank you.
And I didn't know I've known you for a little while,
Mhm.
but I didn't know the full story. So
Yeah.
thank you for being willing
no
to come
problem.
on, share it with
Oh,
us.
anytime.
And not
anytime.
just the story of it,
Yeah.
because I know that's harrowing,
Mhm.
but the lessons you
Yeah.
learned
I-
also.
Just make,
Please.
I want to make sure that this isn't a whole COVID's, a fake thing or,
No.
I don't want to be like that. I just want to say this is what I went through and this is what I experienced, and there it is. You take that information and use it to your benefit. I'm not going to say it's a conspiracy theory, the whole vaccinated or non-vaccinated. I don't want that argument either.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
I'm vaccinated. That was my choice.
Right.
Let me have my choice.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's the only thing that I really wish that viewers will get out of this is
Mhm.
I'm not here for conspiracy theories
Yeah.
or anti or vax or whatever.
And-
No
It's not
question.
that.
I mean, I
This
had
is-
to get vaccinated because I work in treatment centers, and
Yeah.
they mandated
Right,
it, and I'm a first responder, so I was in the first. I never got COVID,
Yeah.
never at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is what
happened.
it is.
It is what
Yeah.
it is. It happened. I suffered from it and I survived. So
And
That's
you're
what I
better
think
off
it is.
because of
Yeah.
it. Do you put your pictures anywhere that people can go and look at them? Because I've seen your work and it's
Yeah, yeah,
pretty
I mean,
amazing, but I don't think you get it out there.
no, I don't put it out there that much. But it is my website, kenjikitaphotography.com
Mm-hmm.
is my website. That's where most of my work is.
Okay.
I don't put a lot of the real estate or corporate gigs on there because that's just for them.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the models that I've shot or some of the product photographies that I've done, videos that I do,
Mhm.
it's on that website.
And so,
my
if some
services are
big
on
Hollywood guy wants to get a hold of you,
there. It's right
because you're a perfect fit
Yeah.
for their movie, their project, their company, how
Yeah.
do they get a hold of you?
there. Again, on my website.
On your
Yeah,
website.
on my website, my phone number and emails on there. I am SAG union, so I am a SAG member. So if it's a SAG movie, I could be on that. I speak Japanese, no problem, with no
I
accent.
have a problem with English with an accent.
So 問題なく日本語喋れます。
which means,
I have no problem speaking Japanese.
I guess, but I have a problem understanding it.
So,
So give us your website again.
Kenji, KenjiKita, photography.com.
Okay, and is there a number if people didn't want to
Yeah,
go there
sure.
and just wanted to reach out to you?
702-493-8971.
Thank you so
Anytime.
much.
Yeah.
And it was really a pleasure, and I'm so grateful and thankful and very appreciative that you took time out of your day today
Yeah, no
to
problem.
come and spend time with Christopher and I and all of our viewers who I'm confident have benefited from your story and the things that you have done to get your life back on track. We wish you only the most amazing things to come your way from this moment forward.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
No question.
And if
thank
you ever want me back, you know my number.
Well,
It's
let's
on there
see.
too.
What do we got next week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No question. We'll
seriously,
have you
if
back
there's
soon.
any follow-up questions that your viewers have, they can contact me directly or go through you, whatever.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'll be there for you guys.
We really
Cool.
appreciate
Thank
it, and we'll do
you
the
were,
same.
You were there for me, so I'm
And
returning
I
the favor.
am very grateful, thankful, and very appreciative that I could be there for you.
Oh, thank you.
And look at you now. You're not exactly where you want to be, but you're headed in that direction. And that, to me, brings so much happiness and joy and amazement
Yeah.
into my own being and my own existence. So,
Thank you.
and Christopher, who are we sponsored by
Yeah,
again?
brought to you today by LBC Law Group, doing personal injury, criminal defense, and business litigation, as well as
Danny's Dynamics, where we do individual and group hypnotherapy, where you make the changes from the inside out to live the life that you want to live. And how can they see us, Christopher? Come on, get with it, man. I give you, like you agreed to a small part.
you see this. So find us you can email us at ourtruthmedia@gmail.com. You can find us on all social media, and My Truth, Your Truth, Someone's Truth. Reach out to us. If you have some questions that you want to talk about, please send them to us, and we will see you next week.
Yep, definitely. All right, everybody.
Awesome.